Since Leviathan came out, I never really liked this guy, but I recently decided I wanted to have a Terminator Librarian to use in games, so I figured I would kitbash him and I'd make him my own. I started out with the front and back of the original model, and I was looking at replacing the front section with this tabard from the Deathwing Knights box. Obviously it doesn't sit flush, so I had to get my craft knife and trim away the plastic that protrudes from the back section of the plate so that the tabard actually fits flush. Yeah, this process took quite a while. I had to keep chipping away and keep checking, making sure I wasn't cutting away too much plastic, and I just rinsed and repeated this process until the tabard fit nicely. Going back now to the original Terminator Librarian front piece, I cut away the recess that his head goes into, and I was just eyeing up how the tabard would kind of fit against the plastic that we've got here. I decided I needed to cut away the hip plate, and I was going to reattach this later on. And also I needed to cut a chunk of the waist away because the Deathwing Knight tabard already has a belt, so there's no room for the model to have two belts. Putting the tabard back onto the back plate, I could check to see if the leg was going to fit into the cavity that was left. And yeah, I had to take a chunk more of the waist off. There's still a few bits here that we can't really put the model together with, so this little bit of scroll had to go. And I just had to shave away a little bit more plastic from the crotch because it protrudes too much. Make whatever jokes you want, it protrudes too much, it's in the way, it has to go. So putting the leg onto the armor plate where it's supposed to be, and then fitting the tabard in front of that, we got to sort of see how well it fit, and it did fit really well. There was this small bit of plastic on the back of the tabard that I needed to get rid of, but once we did that, it all kind of fit together, and it really works. It really fits quite nicely. It's almost like it was made to be this way. Next up, I was eyeing up the actual chest piece from the original Librarian model. I chopped away the chest piece itself because we don't need it, but the pipes are a very iconic part of a Librarian kit. You know, it sticks out the armpits and it goes up to their brains. It's one of the important identifying components of a Librarian, so we had to keep this section. Here you can see me checking how it's going to fit against the tabard. And at this stage, I'm quite happy with where we're up to, so you can just see I am gluing the tabard and the leg to the back plate to make the kit start to come together. I would say that these three pieces are actually the anchor of the entire kitbash. Putting them together now makes it far easier to work on everything else that we're going to be doing later on in the kitbash. Once that was assembled, I used this clip to hold it together just to make sure that it was actually going to cure in place. Looking at the axe, I always felt that the axe looked a bit too Space Wolf for my taste. Maybe Ultramarine, but not really Dark Angels. But I've got more than enough characters who have swords, so I decided I wanted to use a Force staff for this guy. So I chopped away the axe head and I took away this little pipe just to kind of make room for this ornament from the Dark Angels Veterans box. And this was going to come in really nicely as a staff topper. I drilled a hole from the bottom of the staff topper, and then I drilled another hole from the top of the staff down the shaft of the staff. Now that I had these two holes, I was able to use a brass pin to pin the two together with a little bit of plastic glue just to make sure that the join was going to connect properly. And I was pretty happy with this end result. Next, it was time to get onto the other leg. So we got the actual shin plate secured to the leg, and then it was a case of checking the leg against our foundation for the kitbash and just shaving away little parts of the inside of the leg to make sure that it was going to fit. You'll see I also shaved away a little bit of the tabard and filed away at it. This was very incremental. It was a little bit at a time, checking to see if the leg was going to fit, and then going back in and doing a little bit more. In the end, I think I did take away a little bit too much tabard, but fortunately, it's from the inside of the back, so you don't really get to see it. I just kept shaving away, filing away little bits, and eventually I was able to jimmy the leg perfectly into the space that it's supposed to occupy. It joins onto the other leg perfectly as it would have done on the original model, and it kind of fits around the tabard really nicely. So I'm very happy with this result.
Right, he's going to be busy with that for a little while, so let me just tell you a little bit about this. Throughout the month of December, I'm working with Intel, who have very, very kindly sent me the MSI Cyborg 15. I wanted a really good portable workstation so that I would have better tools when I'm filming battle reports, and this is what it's for. But it has also been absolutely class for me editing. Last week I worked 6 days in a row, 10 hours minimum every single day, and I just did not have time to get this video done when I went home. So I've actually managed to put the entire thing together during my breaks at work, which I think is pretty good. So yeah, another huge thank you to Intel for sending me this bad boy. Not only is it going to help us make some amazing stuff in the future, but without it, you would not be watching this video right now until next week. So thank you, Intel, and let's get back to the build.
Next, it was time to secure the forestaff to the arm. So I popped a little bit of glue on all the connecting positions and attached the arm to the model like you would with the axe. Whilst we were there, it was also worth putting the shoulder pad on. And once again, this is exactly as you would on the normal Terminator Librarian. I also attached the left shoulder pad whilst we were here just because it was an easy thing to do. I didn't make any modifications to the Stormbolter arm, and then I glued the entire arm to the model. Next, it was time to glue in the head. I was not a big fan of the cowled traditional librarian head that you were provided with. So obviously we took a Deathwing Knight hooded helmet with a rebreather. This looks a little bit more intimidating to me. It suits Dark Angels and Deathwing, and I was really happy with that choice. Going back to this hip plate that we cut off earlier, I cut off a little bit of excess plastic. So it's just the hip plate and the small bit of plastic that will attach it to our belt. So you can see it takes me quite a while to actually find the right position for this. It was an awful lot of effort to get it to actually work. But once it was in the right position, it was going to be much easier for me to just pop some glue onto the actual connections rather than put the glue in and then try and actually push the piece into position, because I'd probably ruin a lot of plastic doing it that way. Then we've got all of this plastic that we shaved off on the leg to make it fit. So I'm taking one of those combat blades from the Dark Angels upgrade kit and just gluing it into place. This is going to kind of hide all of the connection that we shaved away and make it look a lot more natural. Moving back to the Librarian pipes, I had to trim off some excess plastic, and I decided pretty quickly I wasn't going to bother with the Psychic hood. It was a bit too big for my liking. It covers too much of the face, and also because we're using the sort of pointed hood from the Deathwing style Terminator armor, it wasn't actually going to fit very well, not without an incredible amount of work. And this was the most fiddly job of the entire build. You can see I take a lot of time with the model off screen because I'm leaning right over it, trying to get all of the details right. And getting the pipes exactly where I wanted them to be. They glued on really well. The connection points ended up being really nice. I was very happy with them. It was just the most frustrating thing in the world because I dropped these pipes easily 3, maybe 4 times each on the floor. I had to keep going under my desk, finding them again, picking them up, brushing cat hair off them, trying to reconnect them. But it was so worth it because, like I said before, I think these pipes are one of the key identifying things for librarians. You see these pipes and you just know that's a psyker. So you can see I did have to trim away the little skulls from the top of the tabard to make the pipes actually fit, but it was really easy to do and it was absolutely worth it. Next, I've got this tilt plate, which I think is from the Firstborn Interrogator Chaplain kit, which I used for a different kitbash. I figured it's a unique tilt plate, it looks pretty cool, and it could work for a librarian. And then for something a little bit special, I took this part from the Shade Weaver from the Mandrake's kill team, and I chopped his little dagger and his arm off the actual effect. And I wanted to use this effect as either a representation of a psychic attack coming off him or a psychic shield stopping some kind of bullets from hitting him. I just thought it would be a really cool effect to add to demonstrate his psychic prowess and just remind you that, you know, this guy is dressed like all the other Space Marines, but he is essentially a space wizard. So this effect has 3 connecting points to the model. One is the Stormbolter itself, one is the leather strap that hangs from his wrist, and one is kind of a little gap between the Stormbolter and the hand itself. I was really happy with how this looks. I think it looks quite natural and it fits the style and the pose of the model. So I was thrilled with how this came out. So this is the finished model. And once we had him painted up, this is what he looked like. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed this build process and I hope you enjoy the finished result. I am absolutely thrilled with this, I'm not gonna lie. I've basically taken a model that I didn't like and I've turned it into one of my favorite models, probably from my entire Deathwing collection. And it didn't really take that much effort. I didn't add as many pieces as I have for other kitbashes. None of it was as technical or as difficult as things I've done for other kitbashes, but it just works. And I think the presentation of the build is really good, if I do say so myself. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If you want to see more of my works in progress and talk about all things 40k, my Discord server is in the description. Click on the link, go say hello, we'll chat over there. If you want to support me, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. If you want to really support me, you can become a member today and unlock exclusive access to things like early access to videos, special emotes when I'm streaming here on YouTube, and more. Have a great week. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.